Hello. What's going on, everybody? As always, I hope that this live or this replay finds you well and in excellent spirits. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Mel, and I am the founder of Divine Feminine Works, where we help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. And if you're returning, as always, welcome back. All right, so August. This is going to be the monthly astro forecast for August 2022. August. Not that the astrology is bad or anything like that. It's just, I still can't believe that time is moving so quickly. And it's around this time of the year. I don't know if there are other business owners watching or anything like that, but it's around this time of the year where you start thinking about like holiday season and trying to get all of that together. So it's like, for me, summer's already over. Now it's time to get to business. It's really time to crank out some stuff. So again, around this time, I feel like things start to get a little more serious, right? But thankfully, the astrology doesn't necessarily reflect that. I'm happy to say that this month is going to be sort of regular. There isn't too much going on. Actually, it's kind of one of those months where things sort of work the way that they normally work. We don't have any eclipses. Although we do have a retrograde, it's actually a pretty good retrograde, and I'll get to that once I get into a detailed breakdown of the month. Yeah, we have new moon, full moon. Like, it's really sort of a regular month, which is good. And we're going to need it because, like I said, August is sort of when you start thinking about the months ahead, right? And in the months ahead, particularly once fall hits, is when we hit eclipse season again, and things are going to get crazy at that time. So savor this moment now, okay? Because, regular is good. Sort of rest up so that when eclipse season comes, you're sort of ready to put your gloves on and start fighting. All right. So before we get into the nitty gritty, let's get into some housekeeping rules. All right. So if you are new to my Astro forecast, understand that they are done by rising sign. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain the month generally, and then I break down the month for every single sign, but it's done by rising sign. And so if you're not familiar with your rising sign, you don't know what it is, you're going to want to go to a site like astro.com. You're going to want to put in your birth time, date, and location. It will generate a natal chart for you, and it'll show you what your rising sign is. It's also known as the ascendant. Okay. And so that's how horoscopes are based, if you didn't know that. They can, a lot of times they really do relate to your sun sign, but they're written based on rising sign. And that's exactly how I'm doing these astro forecasts tonight. All right. So that's number one. Number two, if you are joining me live tonight, definitely hit that like button as you come in. And I want you to comment with your rising sign in the chat. All right. So hit that like button, comment with your rising sign. Number three, these lives tend to be really long, close to the 2-hour mark. And if you are a rising sign that's like Capricorn, Aquarius, or Pisces, your sign isn't coming up for a while. And if you're anything like me, a lot of times when you're listening to a live or when you're listening to a fairly lengthy video, you sort of put it on and you do other things, right? You start cleaning, you do some work, you're on the computer, on your phone, or whatever. So in an effort to sort of help you along and keep your attention, whenever you hear this sign, you'll know that I have switched signs. So that sign indicates that I'm on to the next sign, and that is your cue to listen up, whether you're listening up for your rising sign or you're cross-watching for another sign. All right. So again, it's going to be this bell, and you'll know that I've moved on to the next sign. All right. So before we get into the nitty gritty again, if you're new to astrology, okay, and if you started studying or, you've dabbled a little bit into astrology, but you find it to be really confusing, I've created this thing called the Astrology Basics Cheat Sheet, which is basically the quick and dirty on everything you need to know to start studying astrology. So it covers basically the 4 pillars of astrology: the planets, the houses, the signs, and the aspects. Once you get a firm grasping of those 4 things, you're going to be able to move on to more advanced lessons. But more importantly, you're going to be able to have a firm grasp of the knowledge needed to actually decipher your birth chart, your natal chart. Okay. So as you can see, it covers the aspects, the signs, the houses, and the planets. It's just a quick and dirty on everything you need to know. And it's a great sort of guide and, again, a cheat sheet for everything basic about astrology. All right. So if you're interested in downloading that, the link is in the description box below. All you'll need to do is provide your email address and you are good to go. All right. So let's get into August. So this is the rundown basically of what we're looking at for August. So first we have Mercury moving into Virgo. Then we have the full moon in Aquarius, followed by Venus into Leo. Then mighty Mars is going to move into Gemini. The sun is going to move into Virgo, marking Virgo season, which happens to be my favorite. And then we have Uranus going retrograde. Mercury is going to head into Libra. And then we close off the month with a new moon in Virgo. All right. So let's get into it and let's talk astrology for August. So like I said before, this month is pretty regular. We don't have any eclipses, although we do have a retrograde. Uranus retrograde is actually a good thing. And I'll get to that when I get into the breakdown. Mercury is making its usual moves. It's going to be moving into its home sign, one of its home signs of Virgo. Venus is moving into Leo. We're going to have a bit of a Leo emphasis, of course, while the sun is still in Leo. And yeah, it's just pretty regular, which I like. I definitely like, because again, we need to gear up for eclipse season, which is coming in October. So again, rest up, keep all your energy, try not to do too much, because again, there's going to be a lot coming down the pike. All right. So let's take the month chronologically and see what we have. All right, so first, we've got Mercury moving into Virgo on August 4th. All right, so this is a very comfortable spot for Mercury because it's one of its home signs. Mercury is all about communication and ideas. And if you think about Virgo as a sign, Virgo is very much about details, and it's about analyzing things and finding perfection and efficiency in everything that we do. So Mercury is super comfortable there, okay? This is going to allow us to fine tune our communication and ideas. I find that when Mercury is in Virgo, we sort of rethink things, right? Even though Mercury is not retrograde, there's something about Mercury in Virgo that has this sort of reflective nature to it, right? We're able to reanalyze ideas, think things through it with a lens of efficiency and service, because Virgo is a sign of service, okay? So many of us will be talking to people about what we can do for them, maybe talking to people about what they can do for us, perfecting plans, particularly written plans, sort of fine tuning them, especially things like contracts, agreements, documents, important business documents. Mercury in Virgo is great for sort of combing through it and sort of analyzing what's in there, correcting what needs to be corrected, you know, all that good stuff. Now, the one thing about Mercury in Virgo that I sort of caution people is that the devil is in the details. So Virgo is already a very detail-oriented sign. Any little detail, Virgo will not only notice, but Virgo will perfect, okay? And so there's a tendency with Mercury in its home sign of Virgo to really be very nitpicky, all right? This is when many of us are going to be pulling things apart, tearing things apart perhaps, and sort of focusing on the tiniest detail, okay? And so I always say that whenever you find yourself in that sort of energy, it's always best to sort of take a step back. Mercury in Virgo is almost like putting a magnifying glass up to things and work, seeing how they don't work in order to fix them. And that can get not only very granular, but it can get kind of annoying, right? Not just for others, but for you. Being in that kind of energy for a prolonged period of time can sort of wear on you. And it can sort of make you feel lost a little bit, right? Because rather than focusing on the bigger picture of things, Mercury in Virgo is really very much about the finest and the smallest details. And so whenever you feel like you're sort of in it too much, or the energy may be a little too analytical for you, it's always sort of a good idea to step back and sort of recalibrate, get a lay of the land, try to look at the bigger picture, and then go back in and focus on the finer details. Okay. Now, one thing about Mercury in Virgo, it's very critical. Okay. So this is when you're going to have people being very critical, not only of you, but of themselves. It also lends itself to being kind of dry and unimaginative. Whereas if you were to contrast like a Mercury in Pisces, right? Mercury in Pisces transit is all about using your imagination, your intuition, thinking larger than life. Mercury in Virgo is all about what you can see and what is real, like what's tangible. And so Mercury in Virgo is very evidence-based. It's very much analytical, critical, again, very dry and unimaginative. I have to say that when Mercury and the sun tend to be in the sign of Virgo, it's kind of a very dry kind of season. And I hate saying that because I'm a Virgo sun. And of course, Virgo is my favorite season. But, you know, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere, it's sort of when, you know, work begins. Summer's sort of over. Everyone's getting back to work and school. And so it's very like, yeah, you know, those first month of school energy can kind of be kind of dry or whatever. But yeah, that's what we have to look forward to with Mercury in Virgo. Okay. But again, while Mercury is in Virgo, which is going to be for about, I want to say 2 weeks. Actually 3. It's going to be in Virgo for about 3 weeks. This is going to be the best time to get stuff done, especially when it comes to business, especially when it comes to rethinking things, reevaluating, reanalyzing things. Even if you want to make plans, they could be any sort of plans, financial plans, business plans, Anything like that, anything that's practical, any sort of day-to-day things, you're going to want to get that stuff done with Mercury and Virgo, because you're going to have a sharp analytical mind, a critical eye, and an attention to detail. So for the next 3 weeks, beginning on August 4th, use that energy to be productive and efficient. All right. So the next thing that we have is the full moon in Aquarius, which is going down on August 11th. Okay. So full moons are all about the culmination of things. It's when things come to fruition, and it's when things come to light. Okay. It also highlights imbalances that we may be experiencing. And with the full moon in the sign of Aquarius, the dichotomy that we're going to be dealing with is the balance between fitting in and standing out. Sort of on the one end, you have associations, you're going to have group identities, and identifying as part of something, whether it's part of a group, part of a friend circle, part of humanity even, right? On the other end, the other extreme is standing out and being individualistic and creative and thinking unique thoughts and things like that. So regardless of wherever the full moon is going down in your chart, that is still the undercurrent of the energy of the full moon, okay? So it's going down on August 11th at 9:36 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at 19 degrees Aquarius. And so this is, full moons are the culmination of things, right? So I want you to think back to February, because that's when we had the new moon in Aquarius. So something that you may have started at that time may be coming to fruition now, okay? So typically when we're talking about the manifestation cycle between the new moon and the full moon, it's usually about 6 months. You have the new moon, and then 6 months later, you have the new moon in a sign, and then about 6 months later, you have a full moon in that same sign. So that's basically the manifestation cycle when it comes to moons, okay? So again, with this full moon in Aquarius, we're looking towards the future, okay? So something unique, something group-oriented, some sort of group project may be coming to fruition. For some, it may be highlighting things having to do with personal freedom and rebellion, because Aquarius is all about like everyone's going right, so you go left. It's about rebellion and personal freedom. And so the full moon may illuminate where you've been restricted or boxed in your life and show you perhaps what you need to do or who you need to talk to or what you need to acquire so that you can sort of break out of the mold and be individualistic. Okay. So the moon will be conjunct Saturn retrograde and square to Uranus. And, I forgot to mention before, it's good to get out a pen and pencil because a lot of this information is really important and you might want to jot down information about specific dates and whatnot. But with respect to what I was just saying, so the moon will be conjunct Saturn retrograde and square to Uranus. And don't worry, I'm going to do a dedicated video to the full moon. So if you don't catch what I'm throwing right now, you'll definitely understand when I post that video. All right. So essentially what you need to know at this point in time for the full moon in Aquarius is to expect the unexpected. And with Saturn in the mix, karma is definitely going to come back around, specifically with a full moon when you're talking about culmination and the fulfillment of certain manifestations. This is karma sort of wrapping things up. Okay. The full moon may also signify or highlight where you need structure and discipline in your life, or where you have too much structure and discipline in your life and where you need to break free. But in either case, structure and discipline are going to be sort of themes of this full moon. This could also be a very long-term project coming to an end or finally completing. Okay. So it could be something that you started well before the new moon in Aquarius, which is in February. This could be something from last year or maybe even a couple of years ago that may finally be wrapping up and coming to fruition. Okay. So I think for the full moon, Aquarius, since we have Uranus in the mix, this is going to be one of those full moons that may be a bit surprising and jarring. But by and large, I feel like this full moon is not going to be anything that's going to be crazy, over the top, or anything that we can't handle. All right. So that is the full moon. And then next, we've got Venus moving into Leo that same day on August 11th. Okay. So I have to say that I really like Venus in Leo energy because it's very flashy. It's very extravagant. It's very romance and all of the grand gestures of romance. Like Although Venus isn't like Leo isn't Venus's home sign, Venus isn't exalted in Leo, but I love the feeling of Venus in Leo. It sort of takes Venus energy and makes it grand and makes it showy and makes it kind of a little bit cocky too. Okay. So with Venus in Leo, love is definitely magnificent and grand. There's something about making grand gestures that Venus in Leo is like characteristic of. But you have to be, well, I'll get to that in a second. I think I'm jumping ahead of myself. We take pride in love. We take pride in being generous, in being warm, in being loving, and in being childlike. Venus in Leo is also very expressive. This is when you get, like I said, those grand gestures of love and romance. But I would say one of maybe like the negative aspects of Venus in Leo is that it can be a little superficial, a little self-centered, and sort of treats love and romance like a game. It's a game to be played. And it's sort of like, I wouldn't say the thrill of the chase, but Venus in Leo loves that relationship, bubblegum love, that honeymoon stage of the relationship, but not necessarily everything that comes after that. So if you meet someone while Venus is in Leo, if you happen to be dating and you hit it off with somebody, this may be a relationship that feels really great at the outset, but it may not have like lasting or staying power. Now that really depends on, the configuration of your own chart. But just generally speaking, Venus in Leo is not known for like commitment. It's definitely known for having fun, serial dating perhaps. And again, that bubblegum honeymoon stage of the relationship. Now, love, the expression of love with Venus in Leo is about adoration, admiration, and attention, the 3 A's. Venus in Leo loves attention. Venus in Leo, possibly also likes, so if we're talking about like the 5 love languages, Venus in Leo would definitely be like physical touch and affirming words or that one. I don't really necessarily know what it's exactly called, but those are sort of the ways that Venus in Leo looks at love. But Venus in Leo, it's like hungry for attention. And so if you're not getting attention, it can feel very debilitating. Okay. Again, I can't overstate that Venus in Leo is all about attention. Let's see what else that we have. So love becomes a big thing. I think like I've reiterated, this entire time, but love is definitely coming from an ego place with Venus in Leo. Although you can be tapped into your heart space because Leo rules the heart, Venus in Leo, by and large, it's like you have an ego investment in love. It's all about it's all about the preservation of your pride. Okay. And if your pride or your ego gets wounded with Venus in Leo, it's like someone shooting an arrow at you, like, or shooting you in the heart. Like you can really feel it. It's definitely going. Venus in Leo is also very prone to heartbreak. Okay. Because it's very ego based. All right. And then what I was trying to say before is that while Venus in Leo loves romance, it's definitely romance for the act of romance, not for the sake of romance. So again, it sort of lends itself to a bit of superficiality in love. So you're going to want to be mindful of that, especially if you're meeting someone new under this transit. Okay. For existing relationships, I don't necessarily think that Venus in Leo is going to have too much of a negative effect. I think it just may get you to focus more on romance and perhaps more on things like physical touch, adoration, and attention. But if you're starting a new romance, again, you have to sort of be cognizant of the fact that people may be dating or they may be dating you for the sake of dating, not necessarily because they want a long-term relationship or they really have this strong, deep, substantive need for love. It's really about feeding your ego, okay? And also Venus in Leo is very flashy, very dog and pony shows. So if that's what you're attracted to, then this is your time to really flaunt your shit, right? But again, if you're looking for something a little more stable, a little more commitment oriented, Venus in Leo may not be the transit to sort of get that done. All right. Forewarned is forearmed. All right. Let's move on. So next we have mighty Mars moving into Gemini. All right. And so this is going down on August 20th. So Mars is the planet of war. It's the planet of physical activity. It's the planet of fighting. It's the planet of passion. It's the planet of bold, dynamic, initiating energy, right? And in Gemini, it's almost like Mars has ADHD. Okay. The energy of Mars is very scattered, it's unfocused, and it's definitely less determined. So if Mars, like when Mars is in Aries, Mars is super focused. It's focused on itself. It's focused on you. It's focused on the end goal, and that's it. When Mars is in Gemini, it's like multitasking. It's like being passionate about 5 things and trying to start 5 things. It's like you may be able to start, but you definitely may not finish. You may leave a lot of projects unfinished. It's very scattered, okay? And so when it comes to things like manual labor, when it comes to things like exercise, when it comes to any sort of physical activity, even when it comes to trying to set new goals or achieve new goals, you're going to find it a little frustrating and a little challenging to sort of stick with it because you're going to want to do 58 million things, okay? So Mars in Gemini is very busy body energy. But on the flip side, Mars in Gemini allows you to sort of diversify your interests, particularly things that you're passionate about. So like I said before, when Mars is in Aries, it's sort of focused on like one thing. It has like a one-track mind. Whereas Mars in Gemini allows you to diversify that focus. So if you have multiple passions, I feel like then what Mars is in Gemini, it's like some of those passions that you may not have had the bandwidth to focus on before are sort of, it's like your purview is sort of going to open up and you're going to be able to see and experience a lot more different things. So like I started saying before, if you are like passionate about a bunch of different things, I think that Mars and Gemini will allow you to explore those interests. Definitely not on a deep or substantive level, but at least on a surface level, you can sort of try new things, start a couple of new things, and diversify your interests, okay? But again, anything having to do with force, anything having to do with competition, anything having to do with winning, succeeding, especially if you're in some sort of conflict with someone, I feel like Mars in Gemini doesn't give you the oomph that Mars really needs to come out on top. So I say that to say if you're starting something while Mars is in Gemini, and especially if you're starting something related to where Mars in Gemini is in your chart, it's important that you remain consistent because you're not going to have the motivation to do so. Okay. So again, it lends itself to starting a lot of things, but leaving a lot of things unfinished. All right. So take that as you will. All right. So moving right along, we move to sort of the star of the month, which is the sun moving into the sign of Virgo on August 22nd. And that marks the beginning of Virgo season. So like I sort of alluded to before with Mercury in Virgo, when the sun is in Virgo, things aren't necessarily exciting, right? Contrast that with sun in Leo. When the sun is in Leo, it's like we're focused on fun. We're focused on, children. It's very summertime energy. Whereas the sun in Virgo gives very back to school kind of energy. It's sort of back to work, back to getting things done, getting organized. It's almost like, during the summer, you maybe you don't pay enough attention to, cleaning your house because you just want to be out and have fun and hang out with people and stuff. By the time the sun in Virgo rolls around, you're like, okay, let me start cleaning this room. Let me start organizing this space. Let me go to the container store and get a whole bunch of storage bins and drawer separators so that I can really clean up and get organized. And I feel like you're not just going to want to do that with like your physical space. You're going to want to do that with your life. Okay. And the thing with the sun is that the sun highlights everything, right? The sun shows the truth of the matter. So wherever Virgo is in your chart, when the sun hits that sign, it may show you where you're not being so efficient, where you need to clean up and organize, where you need to start paying attention to details. So things regarding wherever Virgo is in your chart, things may come into focus at that time when the sun hits that sign. Okay. So this is about putting things together, making order out of chaos, taking care of practical concerns, okay? Virgo is all about your day-to-day activities, your daily routine, doing things that are routine, okay? And so that's why Virgo season tends to be a little dry, because it's not super exciting when we're talking about our daily routine, right? Tying up loose ends, tending to the details. Virgo is also very health conscious. And so I feel that during Virgo season, many people tend to take their health more seriously. I mean, just think of it this way. If you've spent an entire summer, like 3 months, just partying, drinking, eating with reckless abandon, by the time Virgo season comes around, you're like, okay, I sort of need to get my health in check. Maybe I need to make a doctor's appointment. Maybe I need to change up my eating habits or stop drinking, perhaps. Like Virgo is definitely going to have you in your health consciousness bag. All right. And like I sort of alluded to before with Mercury in Virgo, with the sun in Virgo, it energizes your need for perfectionism, for things to be perfect, analyzing every single little detail down to the smallest piece. And so again, that sort of energy can get very overwhelming and can get a bit debilitating at times. So if you find that you're caught up in that energy, especially when both the sun and Mercury are in Virgo, definitely take a step back. All right. The one thing that I've learned in my some odd years of being a Virgo sun sign is that the quest for perfectionism usually leads to things being very imperfect. So one of the lessons of Virgo season is to not be so hard on yourself. While it is great to strive for perfection, and when it's great to be organized and efficient and sort of running on all cylinders in a very efficient sort of way, that shouldn't be at the cost of your mental or physical health. And a lot of us tend to learn this lesson during Virgo season. All right. So next up, we've got Uranus going retrograde in the sign of Taurus on August 24th. Now, some people, as soon as they hear retrograde, doesn't even matter what planet we're talking about, they get that feeling, right? Because Mercury retrograde is the shit show that it is. And so people are like, when they hear retrograde, they're like, oh no, this can't be good. But actually, Uranus retrograde is actually really good. See, Uranus is the planet of surprise, okay? It's the planet of unexpected changes. It's the planet of anxiety. It's the planet of electricity. Basically, with Uranus, you have to expect the unexpected. And so when Uranus is direct, wherever Uranus is in your chart, whatever planets Uranus transit is hitting, it sort of adds this element of surprise. It adds this element of being out of control, of things happening beyond your control. Okay. And so that can be very jarring. Okay. But the good thing about Uranus retrograde is that surprise energy sort of, I'm not going to say it turns off, but it definitely lessens. So things tend to be not so crazy, not so erratic, not so up and down, not so electric or anxiety ridden, right? So Uranus retrograde calms things down, all right? So Uranus is going to be retrograde from August 24th until January 22nd. So for the rest of the year, Uranus is going to be retrograde. And this happens every year. The outer planets, meaning Saturn, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, they all spend at least 4 months out of the year retrograde. Okay. So it's not anything new. And it's likely something that you haven't noticed, right? Because even though it's retrograde, the outer planets don't have as much of an effect on us personally as it does more on a societal level. So with Uranus retrograde, we may see things calming down in society a bit. It's not going to be so much of this herky-jerky energy and this like bracing yourself for something crazy to happen. Things are going to subside a little bit for the rest of the year, which is good. Now, I say that, disclaimer, I say that, just Uranus retrograde in and of itself. This doesn't mean that for the rest of the year, things are going to be pretty quiet. in terms of society. Depending on the rest of the astrology, things could still be batshit crazy, but at least Uranus isn't going to be adding that extra element of surprise to something that may already be like a bad situation. Okay. Now, the thing is, you can never really pinpoint what any sort of Uranus transit is going to be like or feel like, because again, it's a surprise, right? So whenever Uranus goes retrograde, it definitely lessens the energy of Uranus, but you just can't really tell exactly how it'll play out. It's unpredictable. So in astrology, Uranus usually is symbolically represented by the universe, the cosmos. Some even call it the hand of God. And you know that we can't control the hand of God. That's why things are a surprise, right? When the universe is making its moves, when God is shifting things around, there is nothing that you can do. And that is the essence of Uranus energy. So again, during this retrograde period, Uranus is sort of going to be calming down, not as surprising, not as nerve-wracking, not as anxiety filled. Okay. Now, one of the ways that Uranus retrograde sort of plays out is breakdowns and breakthroughs. Without so much surprise coming your way, it's really a good time to experience flashes of insight, sort of personal development also, re-examining the urge to transform your reality. It's basically it's transformative. It can be. Not in the way that, let's say, like a Pluto retrograde would be. But Uranus retrograde also deals with transformations, but it allows for breakthroughs, particularly mental breakthroughs. Okay. So for the next couple of months, enjoy the sort of lull in Uranus energy. And allow yourself to think about where you can break through and where you can transform your reality and your particular life. All right. So moving right along, we've got Mercury making another move this month into the sign of Libra on August 25th. Now, Mercury in Virgo was dry, unimaginative, very detail oriented, and focused on work and health, right? Mercury in Libra is diplomatic. It's friendly. It's focusing on one-to-one relationships, right? Mercury is all about communication and ideas, but in Libra, it's not even so much about talking to a lot of people like a Mercury in Gemini would be. It's more about your one-to-one relationships and the communication in those relationships, okay? This is also it also lends itself to things like diplomacy, negotiating, but also being indecisive. Mercury in Libra is notorious for being indecisive because you can see both sides of a situation. So it's one of those cases where you can understand the other person's point of view, while also understanding your point of view, and as a result, not being able to make a decision. Okay. Now, one of the sort of negative traits of Mercury in Libra is people pleasing and sort of giving a lot more weight to the opinions of others. This is also, even though Mercury in Libra is diplomatic, it's also about sort of accommodating other people's opinions so that you can keep the peace. So that still speaks to this people-pleasing sort of energy. So it's very non-confrontational. It's more about, oh, I understand what you're saying. Oh, okay, so let's just quash this so, this doesn't escalate into something bigger, right? It's definitely about keeping the peace, which in certain situations may work, but in other situations, it may do something like very much stifle your throat chakra. Mercury in Libra is not necessarily able to express itself in the best way possible because, again, although it's a great thing to be able to see both sides, not being able to make a decision or people pleasing is definitely not the best use of your communication skills. Okay. It's also about failure to assert yourself. Libra is by itself. Libra is a very social sign, right? It's very much concerned with relationships, not just one-to-one relationships, but relationships with everyone generally. And one of the qualities of Libra is that Libra likes to be liked, right? And sometimes that is very much to Libra's detriment, because sometimes what makes you may not be palatable to other people, but who cares? So Mercury in Libra is not as expressive as it could be, because it's really concerned about people pleasing and not appearing as the bad guy or confrontational or wanting to fit in with everybody. You get my drift. So those are things to be mindful of while Mercury is in Libra, because it's just, people pleasing isn't always a great thing to do. All right, let's just put it bluntly. But again, Mercury in Libra is great for negotiation. It's great for coming to a fair decision. If you are judging something, right? Mercury in Libra can be helpful because you can clearly see both sides. But again, it also lends itself to being indecisive. So maybe that wasn't the best example for me to use, but I think you get the drift of what I'm trying to explain when it comes to Mercury in Libra. But I think that during that time, your one-to-one relationships can really benefit from this transit, because I feel like there's going to be more of a focus on it, a more of an I wouldn't even say intimacy, but I would say more of a focus on your communication with perhaps the people that are closest to you, the people that you work with, perhaps. In any regard, I think that Mercury in Libra definitely can help benefit at least your communication in your one-to-one relationships. All right. And then finally, we close out the month with a new moon in the sign of Virgo on August 27th. Okay. So new moons are all about new beginnings, planting new seeds, and setting new intentions. And in the sign of Virgo, this new moon allows you to set new intentions related to work, related to your daily routine, related to efficiency, and related to your health. So the new moon is going to be on August 27th at 4:17 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at 4 degrees of Virgo. So any intentions that you set at this new moon are probably going to play out over the next 6 months until the full moon in Virgo in Pisces season, which is going to be next year, February, March. Okay. So this new moon is going to be basically a rehash of all of that Virgo energy that I've been talking about earlier, right? So you're going to pay attention to details, analyze things, be efficient. But there's going to be a square to Mars with this new moon. So there's going to be this tension between sort of wanting to start something new and sticking to your routine. Okay. You may also feel a lack of direction with this new moon. Again, I feel like the Mars is still going to be in Gemini. So like I said before, Mars in Gemini is sort of directionless, wanting to do a lot of things, very unfocused and scattered. Whereas the moon in Virgo is going to be like, what are you talking about? Like, I have this daily routine. I want to stick to this daily routine. Whereas Mars in Gemini is like, well, let's try this. Let's try that. Let's do this. Let's do that. So you may feel like you're being pulled in different directions with this new moon. But Mars can also, the use of Mars energy constructively is to add momentum to anything that you're trying to do. So even though it's a square, I feel like the square to the new moon, the Mars square, the new moon, I think can help you add momentum and oomph to whatever you're trying to start. But one of the things you'll want to keep in mind for this new moon is that you may have a propensity to leap before you look, which might make you have to course correct later on. Your mind might be also very conflicted. Okay. Gemini is a mercurial sign with Mars in there. You may have a lot of conflicting thoughts, a lot of different thoughts about what you want to do. Again, it's very scattered and unfocused energy. And in a sign like Virgo, the new moon really wants to be focused, laser focused almost, and very detail oriented. So the new moon might have you feeling a little unsteady, may have you feeling a little directionless, a little aimless, but by and large, it's still a new moon. So it's still going to give you the opportunity to start something new. And again, I feel like that constructive use of Mars will allow you to add some oomph and momentum to whatever you're trying to start. All right. So that is August in a nutshell. Like I said, nothing too crazy. It's definitely a regular sort of month. And again, I think that's a good thing because, again, in the fall, we've got a lot more stuff coming up. All right. So now it's time to get into the signs. All right. And again, these are done by rising sign. And when you hear this, you'll know that I have switched signs. All right. So first up, we've got Aries rising. All right, Aries. So for you, the areas of focus in August are money and assets, creativity and kids, work and health, and friends and goals. All right. So let's get into it. So during Leo season, you're going to have an emphasis on your fifth house of creativity, romance, and children. Okay. Now, this is the quintessential house for Leo. Leo, the sun is the natural ruler of Leo. The fifth house is the natural house for Leo. So when it comes to Leo season, you guys really feel that energy pretty strongly. All right. And so during Leo season, you have the sun, Mercury, and Venus in your fifth house. So there's this emphasis on romance, right? There's this emphasis on being creative, having fun, entertainment, anything involving children. With Venus, romantic relationships. It also could be creative endeavors that you want to monetize, okay? Or creative endeavors that just make you feel good. Spending money on entertainment, spending money on kids, okay? Mercury in your fifth house during Leo season is all about, the conversations that you have about or with children. Conversations related to romance, creative endeavors, expressing yourself creatively also is one of those ways that Mercury in Leo plays out for you. Okay. But by and large, Leo season has an emphasis on having fun, entertainment, could be sporting events, being creative, expressing yourself, and following your heart. Then on August 11th, the full moon in Aquarius lights up your 11th house of friendship and goals. So there may be some sort of group project that you started perhaps at the new moon in Aquarius or even before that comes to fruition. There may be a goal that you've been working on for the longest, one of these lifelong, big deal kind of goals that could also be coming to fruition. The full moon may also illuminate anything going on with your friends, for better or for worse. Or perhaps where you need to think about your goals in a different sort of way. All right. So that's the full moon in Aquarius. Then for Virgo season, your sixth house of work and health is going to be lit. Okay. And that's also where we have the new moon. So when it comes to Virgo season, there's going to be an emphasis on getting back to work, being efficient, getting organized, perhaps getting your health in order. Health matters may come into focus over the next month. And with the new moon, you can use that energy to manifest something new related to work, related to service, service, the service that you do on a daily basis, like your job, or even if you do things like charity work or something like that. I feel like the new moon is great for sort of organizing, for starting that. And also, if you're looking to start a new health regimen, a new diet, a new exercise routine, I feel like the new moon in Virgo is perfect for that. And then finally, you have an emphasis on your second house of money and material possessions when Uranus goes retrograde. So if you've been experiencing a lot of volatility in terms of your money, in terms of your assets, perhaps you have stocks or even crypto, and clearly all of that has been pretty volatile. I think we may see that a lot of that is going to subside while Uranus is retrograde. I also feel like Uranus retrograde can allow you to have breakthroughs in terms of money and assets, perhaps how you look at them, how you view them, or how you value. So that's pretty much the nutshell. That's pretty much August in a nutshell for you, Aries. So now let us move on to Taurus rising. All right, Taurus. So for you, August is going to have a focus on you, your home and family, creativity and kids, and finally your career. All right. So first up, While the sun is still in Leo and we're still in Leo season, your fourth house of home and domestic affairs is going to be lit. So this is going to be the time when you focus on your family, when you focus on your physical living space, when you focus on property, perhaps, if you own any. This is also about your relationship with your family, particularly your parents or your grandparents, anyone that's close to you in terms of family. Even if you live with people who are not family, they may come into focus, or your relationship with them may come into focus during Leo season. I feel like when it comes to Mercury in Leo, and Mercury is only going to be in Leo for the first couple of days of the month, but Mercury in Leo is going to allow you to express yourself, particularly express yourself from the heart, especially with family members. Okay, so Leo season has an emphasis on your fourth house. Then with the full moon in Aquarius, you're going to have an emphasis on your 10th house of career and public life. So a career project, particularly a long-term career project, may be coming to fruition at the full moon. Oh, my nose is itching like crazy. Yeah, so a career project may be coming into focus or maybe coming to fruition at the full moon in Aquarius, okay? This may also be something about work, about your reputation, about your public standing may come to light at the full moon as well. And again, the dichotomy that's going to be playing out at the full moon is this dichotomy of standing out versus fitting in. And however that's going to play out with respect to your career and your public life, I feel like the full moon is going to illuminate that for you. Then we have an emphasis on your fifth house when Virgo season begins. All right. So you're going to have the sun, Mercury, and the new moon in your fifth house of creativity, romance, and children during Virgo season. And so when the sun is in your fifth house, even though Virgo season tends to be about work, it tends to be about getting organized and efficient, I feel like, Virgo season for you is going to be a little bit of fun. It's going to be about expressing yourself, having some sort of childlike behavior. I'm not saying to be immature, but sort of being carefree, right? It's going to be about following your heart. It's going to be about having fun, expressing yourself, being creative. So Virgo season tends to be pretty fun time for you, apart from other signs, okay? And then finally, with Uranus going retrograde on August 24th, it's going to affect your first house of self. So you guys have had Uranus in your sign for about the last 4 years, and it's going to remain in your sign until, I guess, 2026. Okay. So Uranus, when it was direct, you may have found that your personality was changing a lot. Your looks may have been changing, a lot of surprise changes to your looks, but more so your attitude and your outlook on life, right? For some, it may have been very interesting and exciting. For others, it may have been jarring because it's like the very essence of you was changing. And while that's going to continue until 2026, while Uranus is retrograde for the rest of the year, all of that is going to subside a little bit. And you'll have time to do some reflection on perhaps some of the breakthroughs that you've experienced. Okay, so Uranus retrograde is going to be very self-reflective for you. All right, so that is August in a nutshell for you, Taurus. So now we move on to Gemini rising. All right, Gemini. So for you, the areas of focus in August are going to be ideas and conversations, home and family, spirituality, and the unknown. All right, so let's get into it. So during Leo season, your third house of communication and ideas is going to be lit because you're going to have the sun, Mercury, and Venus in those houses. So suffice it to say, during Leo season, you're going to be quite busy, and that's how you like to be. Gemini is very busybody energy. It's very social. It's very communicative. And I feel like Leo season is going to be exactly that for you. Okay. I feel like Venus is going to have you focus either on like socializing with a lot of people, like on a friend sort of level, or conducting business, because Venus is all about money. So Leo season may find you busy with business transactions, negotiations, sales, things like that. Mercury in the third house, I feel like Leo season may have you having a lot of creative ideas. I feel like you may be more in tune with your heart. So a lot of what you're thinking about is stemming from your heart and what feels good during Leo season. But by and large, I feel like Leo season is going to be pretty busy for you. A lot of communications, a lot of, outings perhaps. The third house is also good for short trips. So Leo season may have you taking a short trip, maybe a weekend trip, or a place that's not too far, or a place that you've actually been to before. Okay. So then the full moon in Aquarius is going to light up your ninth house of long distance travel and higher education. The ninth house also covers spirituality and faith. And so the full moon may illuminate all of those things for you. The ninth house also covers things like upper level coursework, legal situations, court cases, things like philosophy, religion, all of those kind of things. Anything in the ninth house, basically what it does is it expands your mind and broadens your horizons. Okay. So the full moon may show you where you need to do that in your life. Okay. Perhaps you've been really enmeshed in a particular group or a particular faith or a particular religion. And the full moon in Aquarius may show you where you kind of need to not only step out on faith, but maybe step out on your own and experience things on more of an individualistic sort of level. The full moon in Aquarius may also highlight the ending of a legal situation. It may highlight the ending of upper level coursework, particularly anything that started around the Aquarius new moon back in February. But by and large, I feel like the full moon in Aquarius might be pretty spiritual for you guys. It may be very enlightening in terms of spirituality. So next up, during Virgo season, we have your fourth house being lit because you're going to have the sun, Mercury, and the new moon there. The fourth house is all about home and family. So during that time, this may be about getting organized at home, like literally your physical living space. You may be cleaning, organizing, getting things in order. For some of you, you may have conversations with family related to health issues, whether it's a family member that has a health issue, or you may have a health issue, and talking to your family about perhaps the origin of this health issue may be a focus during Virgo season. Okay. Now, with the new moon being in your fourth house, this allows you to start something new at home or with family. So if you're looking to purchase property, you may want to set that in motion at the new moon in Virgo. If you're looking to do anything with family members, you're going to want to start that at the new moon in Virgo. Okay. And then finally, we have Uranus retrograde on the 24th, which is going to occur in your 12th house of the unknown. Okay. So Uranus is already sort of this energy of the unknown, right? Because it's sort of the universe in the hand of God. And when it's in the 12th house for you, that's really things that are out of your control, because the 12th house covers things that we can't see. It covers things that are hidden, things that are going on behind the scenes. And so for you with Uranus retrograde, it's just pretty much things that you're not going to be privy to, but things behind the scenes are going to slow down a bit. It's going to give you time for some serious reflection, and reflection on a very soul level. So for many of you, I feel like Uranus retrograde is going to be a time where you seriously, if you're not examining breakthroughs that you've experienced, I think that you're going to be having some of these aha moments and sort of these mental breakthroughs on a very deep sort of level. So I feel like we close out the month for you, Gemini, on a very sort of contemplative and reflective note. All right. So that was Gemini. Next up, we have Cancer. All right, Cancer rising. So for you, the areas of focus this month are money and assets, ideas and conversations, intimacy, and friendship and goals. All right, so let's get into it, Cancer. So during Leo season, you have an emphasis on your second house of money and material possessions. So during that time, I feel like whenever it comes to money, whenever it comes to spending money, saving money, amassing assets, I think you're going to be doing it from a place of, I don't want to say impulsivity, because Leo energy is very childlike. But you're going to be doing it from a place of what feels good, and not necessarily what makes logical sense. Okay. I feel like you're going to be emotional in the sense that you follow your heart when it comes to making money decisions during Leo season. I feel like when it comes to making money, a lot of you are going to be looking at it from a very creative lens. How can I express myself and make money at the same time? I think that Leo season really going to ask that question of you. And I feel like you're going to spend Leo season trying to answer that question. Okay. A lot of money talk during Leo season. So this could be a lot of business discussions, negotiations, sales, all of that stuff. But I feel like by and large, money is really on your mind during Leo season. Then during the full moon in Aquarius on the 11th, it's going to highlight your 8th house of intimacy and shared resources. So shared resources covers things like if you are married, your partner's assets, your partner's money. This could be money from a benefactor, from a bank, someone who lends you money. The 8th house also covers things like debts. So you may find that at the full moon, a debt becomes illuminated or comes, something that's perhaps a little bit surprising that you didn't expect may come up. For others of you, it may highlight your dependence or your independence with respect to shared resources. Like I said, the 8th house also covers intimacy. So intimacy issues may be highlighted at the full moon. Now, when it comes to a joint project, perhaps where you put in money with someone else or you partnered up with someone else in the past, I feel like the full moon may signify the culmination of this project, whatever it is. All right. And then we have Virgo season, which is going to highlight your 3rd house of communication and ideas. So during Virgo season, you're going to have the sun, Mercury, and the new moon in your 3rd house. So suffice it to say, Virgo season is going to find you pretty busy. A lot of communication, a lot of ideas, a lot of stuff about work. You may be communicating a lot about health also. And the new moon is going to allow you to plant new seeds when it comes to things like short distance travel. So maybe this is a good time for you to plan a weekend trip or, a trip someplace that's not too far. This may also be a great time to plant seeds related to business transactions. Anything having to do with sales, contracts, anything like that, you're going to want to plant those seeds at the new moon. All right. And then finally, we have Uranus retrograde on the 24th, which is going to highlight your 11th house of friendship and goals. So if you've been experiencing a lot of volatility when it comes to friends, when it comes to groups that you're a part of, when it comes to associations, or even when it comes to goals that you've been trying to achieve, maybe you've been working steadily at something and you feel like you keep getting sidetracked or distracted. I feel like that energy is going to wane when Uranus is retrograde, and it's going to allow you to reflect on those particular things. All right. So that was Cancer. Next up, we've got Leo rising. All right. So Leo, the areas of focus for you in August are your money and assets, relationships, and career. All right. So first and foremost, if you are an August Leo, happy birthday. I sincerely hope that this new revolution around the sun brings you everything that your heart truly desires. All right. So during your season, your 1st house is going to be lit. Okay. So with the sun, Mercury, and Venus in your 1st house, you are going to be focused on your appearance, things that you may want to accomplish, any personal goals that you have. All of that is going to be front and center during Leo season. All right. And then at the full moon in Aquarius, this is going to highlight your 7th house of relationships. So relationships, meaning your partnerships, your committed relationships, are going to be highlighted, or something may happen that highlights those relationships. The 7th house also covers things like contractual agreements. Anything to which you bind yourself is covered by the 7th house. So any of those things may also come into focus at the new moon. This may also be sort of this energy, full moons are all about that dichotomy, right? It's all about extremes. And so for you, this may be the extreme of how you identify, right? Do you identify as part of a couple, or do you identify as, you, and then you have your relationship? So I think by and large for you, the full moon in Aquarius is going to have a lot to do with your identity and how you identify yourself. When Virgo season rolls around with the sun, Mercury, and the new moon in Virgo, this is going to highlight your second house of money and material possessions. So Virgo season is going to have you sort of taking stock and getting organized in terms of your finances. This could be finally going through all of those bank statements. This could be, reconciling your accounts. This could be updating the paperwork with respect to any assets that you have. Virgo season is going to be, again, pretty dry. But when it comes to money, it's a great time for you guys to get organized and efficient. Okay. And then finally, with Uranus going retrograde on the 24th, this is going to be going down in your 10th house of career and public life. So if you've been experiencing a lot of volatility when it comes to your career, maybe you're trying to move up the corporate ladder and you find that whole bunch of shit has been going on that has prevented you from doing so, or things have just sort of been all over the place and a little bit unsteady. I feel like that sort of energy is going to wane when Uranus is retrograde. It's going to allow you to reflect on your career path, your career journey, where you want to go in the future even. And without all of those surprises and all of that anxiety, you'll be able to think about things a little more clearer because it's almost like your nervous system is going to be a little more steady. All right. So that's something to look forward to with Uranus retrograde. All right, so that was Leo. Next up, we've got Virgo. All right, Virgo. So for you, August is all about you. It's about work and health, spirituality, and the unknown. All right, so let's get into it. First and foremost, for all of my August Virgos, happy birthday. Just like Leos, I hope that this new revolution around the sun brings you guys everything that your hearts truly desire. All right. So during Leo season, your 12th house is lit because you've got the sun, Mercury, and Venus in that house. Now, typically the season before your solar return is always marked by rest. So for you, Leo season is really about resting, relaxing, recharging your batteries, and getting ready for your season. Leo season is also probably going to be pretty introspective for you. I don't know about you, but anytime, before my birthday, you always get really introspective. Like, what have I accomplished this year? What do I want to accomplish next year? What do I want to do with my life? What life goals? Where am I with certain life goals? Right. So Leo season is pretty much that sort of energy for you guys. All right. Then with a full moon in Aquarius, this is going to highlight your 6th house of work and health. So work and health issues are going to come into focus. They're going to be illuminated under the light of the moon. Perhaps something you didn't realize or something that you overlooked with respect to work or a health matter may come into sharp focus. This may also culminate the end of a work project, something that perhaps was started at the Aquarius new moon or even before that. This could also mark a time when healing is finally completed in terms of a health matter. So you may find that at the full moon in Aquarius, you're feeling a lot better. Something is perhaps healed and you're ready to move on to the next thing. So then next, with Virgo season, that's going to highlight your 1st house of self. You're going to have the sun, Mercury, and the new moon in your 1st house. And, Virgo season is all about you. It's all about your body. It's all about your appearance, your outlook, your attitude when it comes to life. The focus is just going to be on you for Virgo season. So enjoy it. All right. And then finally, with Uranus retrograde on the 24th, that is going to be going down in your 9th house of long distance travel and higher education. So whenever it comes to like long distance travel, upper level courses like graduate school, law school, medical school, legal situations, things having to do with philosophy, religion, all those things are governed by the 9th house. And you may have found that when Uranus was direct, there was a lot of volatility with respect to those things. Maybe you were trying to go away and something always came up and you had to delay your trip. Or maybe you have a legal situation that's just been all over the place, right? Uranus retrograde is going to quiet some of that anxiety, quiet some of that noise, quiet some of that volatility. And so you can really think about those areas of life or those particular subjects a lot more clearly and more level-headed, and be able to make more decisions going into the future in terms of any sort of 9th house activities. All right. So that is Virgo. Next up, we've got Libra. All right, Libra. So for you, the areas of focus for August are creativity and children, intimacy, friendship and goals, and the unknown. All right, so let's get into it. So during Leo season, your 11th house of friendship and goals is lit because we've got the Sun, Mercury, and Venus in that house. So during Leo season, suffice it to say, I think you guys are going to be pretty social. You guys are going to be hanging out with friends, hanging out with groups of people who perhaps think like you or groups that you identify with. Leo season may also have you really following your heart and working on goals that make you feel good. Maybe you've had a goal since childhood, right? That you sort of let fall by the wayside or that you've ignored. I feel like Leo season, that inner child is going to be just poking at you and really trying to get your attention to fulfill this goal. So if you have any of these intuitive nudges, right? If you have any of these feelings like, yo, I like this as a kid, maybe I should get back to that. You should definitely follow it because the astrology definitely supports that. All right. Then at the full moon in Aquarius on the 11th, this is going to illuminate your 5th house of creativity, romance, and children. So anything involving your children, a project involving your children, any sort of event going on with your kids may come to a culmination at the full moon. Some of you may uncover a creative ability, or again, something that your inner child would love to do. I feel like the full moon may illuminate that as well. And I feel like whatever it illuminates may not feel weird, but I feel like people may view it as weird, or people may view it as like, whoa, that's different or whatever. But I feel like it's going to make you feel so good that you're just going to want to pursue it anyway. The full moon in Aquarius may also mark the end of an entertainment event, a sporting event, a creative project may finally be coming to fruition at that full moon. Okay. Then we have Virgo season, which is going to light up your 12th house. And you're going to have the Sun, Mercury, and the new moon in your 12th house during Virgo season. And because this is the season before your season, Virgo season is about rest for you. It's about resting, recharging, relaxing, sort of being introspective and getting yourself ready for Libra season, which is going to begin at the end of September. And then finally, with Uranus retrograde on the 24th, this is going to go down in your 8th house of intimacy and shared resources. So let's say you've been trying to get funding for a business and you've been met with all these obstacles or all of these crazy happenings that it's almost like you thought the line to funding was going to be linear, it was going to be straight, and it's really been like all over the place, right? Well, with Uranus going retrograde, all of that sort of nervous anxiety energy is going to subside, and you're going to be able to think about, when it comes to, funding for your business, when it comes to a loan, when it comes to inheritance or a tax issue, you're going to be able to sort of handle it and think about it in a clearer sort of way because there isn't going to be all of that volatile energy associated with it. The 8th house also covers intimacy. So intimacy issues may not be as volatile or as crazy when Uranus goes retrograde. All right. So that was Libra. We are just making our way through all these signs. And so now we are up to Scorpio. All right, Scorpio. So for you in August, these are the areas of focus. You've got home and family. You've got relationships, career, and friends and goals. All right. So during Leo season, your 10th house of career and public life is going to be lit because the Sun, Mercury, and Venus are going to be in your 10th house. So career, your public life, reputation, social standing, all of these issues are going to come to the forefront during Leo season. It's also very important that during Leo season, you explore sort of career choices that speak to your heart. I feel like for you, Leo season is really going to be about finding what feels good in terms of your work, in terms of your whatever you do for work and career. I feel like following your heart is going to be a major theme during Leo season. During the Aquarius full moon on the 11th, it's going to highlight your 4th house of home and domestic affairs. So a home project, perhaps that was started at the Aquarius new moon back in February or even before that, may finally be coming to fruition. Maybe if you were purchasing a home and the closing process was super long, perhaps you're finding that at the Aquarius new moon, it's finally completed and you're getting the keys to your home. There may be a family project or something going on with a family member that becomes highlighted at the full moon in Aquarius. But what's going to be interesting is that your identity as a family member versus your identity as an individual may come into play at this full moon. So that's something to be cognizant of at that time. Then during Virgo season, your 11th house of friendship and goals is going to be highlighted because we're going to have the sun, Mercury, and the new moon in that house. So Virgo season is going to be about socializing. It's going to be about networking and finding your tribe, essentially. With the new moon in your 11th house, you can use this energy to meet new friends, get into different groups, or plant the seeds for a goal, a dream of yours that you would like to accomplish. All right. And then finally, with Uranus retrograde on the 24th, this is going to be in your 7th house of relationships. So Uranus direct in your 7th house makes your partnerships, your commitments, your obligations, particularly your contractual obligations, it made it pretty volatile. So things probably were all over the place. At times, you probably felt like you were very much out of control. Now, the good thing with Uranus retrograde is that energy is going to subside. So you're going to have probably a lot more calmness and sort of things being on an even keel in your relationships and your contractual agreements. All right. So it's also going to allow you to sort of assess how far you've come and sort of where you want to go in these relationships. So ultimately, Uranus retrograde is going to be very beneficial for your relationships. All right. That was Scorpio. We are now up to Sagittarius. All right, Sagittarius. So for you, the areas of focus in August are ideas and conversations, work and health, spirituality, and career. All right. So first off, Leo season is going to highlight your 9th house of higher education, long distance travel, and spirituality because we have the sun, Mercury, and Venus. Okay. With of emphasis on your 9th house during Leo season, I feel like long distance relationships may be a thing for you or may be highlighted during Leo season. Okay. For others of you, this may be your relationship to people such as mentors, lawyers, because it covers legal situations, spiritual gurus, priests, pastors. I feel like those relationships may come into focus or become illuminated while the sun is in Leo. This also may mark a time where you focus on upper level coursework. You may want to plan a trip, or you may be taking a trip to an exotic location that may be sort of far away from where you currently are. All right. With the full moon in Aquarius on the 11th, this is going to illuminate your 3rd house of communication and ideas. So I feel like the full moon in Aquarius is going to find you pretty busy. Okay. I feel like there's going to be a lot of transactions, a lot of communications. For some, certain communications is going to be highlighted, particularly anything having to do with your neighborhood or your immediate vicinity. May be highlighted at the full moon. There may be a project in your neighborhood that's finally coming to completion. You may have a business transaction or some sort of paperwork that's finally coming to a conclusion. This may highlight your need to do paperwork. It may highlight the need for you to learn certain things. Regardless, I feel like the full moon in Aquarius is going to be a pretty busy time for you. All right. Next up, with Virgo season, your 10th house of career and public life will be illuminated because you're going to have the sun, Mercury, and the new moon there. So Virgo season is going to find you busy at work. This may be finding you busy in your career, trying to climb the corporate ladder. If you're a business owner, I feel like there's going to be an extra emphasis on your business and business activities. Issues related to your reputation, to your social standing may also come into focus during Virgo season. And with the new moon in your 10th house, this is the best time to plant seeds related to your career, whether it's career mobility, whether it's career transformation, whether it's starting a business, sort of going out on your own and starting a business. You're going to want to plant those seeds at the new moon in Virgo on the 27th. All right. And then finally, Uranus retrograde is going to go down in your 6th house of work and health on the 24th. So you may have a health matter that was sort of all over the place. There may have been a lot of volatility with that. Work and your daily routine may have been all over the place. Okay. And with Uranus retrograde, that energy is going to subside. So you'll have a bit of a lull. Let me not say a lull, because even though Uranus is retrograde, it still has a bit of that Uranus energy. Okay. So things aren't going to be as volatile at work, in your daily routine, or with your health once Uranus goes retrograde. It's also going to allow you to reflect on those things with a clearer head, since things won't be so all over the place. All right. So that was Sagittarius. All right. Next up, we have Capricorn. All right, Capricorn. So for you, the areas of focus in August are money and assets, creativity and children, intimacy, and spirituality. All right. So first up, during Leo season, you guys have your 8th house lit because you've got the Sun, Mercury, and Venus in there. Now, the 8th house covers intimacy and shared resources. Okay, so shared resources is anything like money from a partner, like a spouse, like a joint checking account kind of a thing. This could also be money from a bank, money from a benefactor, money from an investor. The 8th house also covers things like debt. It covers things like insurance policies, inheritances, and taxes. The 8th house also covers intimacy and transformation. So a lot of people say that the 8th house covers sex, right? Because sex is like the ultimate sort of transformative activity, I guess, depending on who you have it with, I suppose. So those issues may also come into focus when the sun is in Leo and during Leo season. So you may find that you're thinking about these things more. You're engaging with people more in these things, whether it is sex or whether it's communication regarding other people's money. Okay. Then the full moon in Aquarius on the 11th is going to highlight your 2nd house of money and material possessions. So August has a very money flavor for you. And I know that you guys absolutely love that, because Capricorn, if there's one thing that you guys are about, you're about your money. All right. So the full moon in Aquarius is going to highlight a situation with money. Okay. So perhaps a money project, something that has to do with work, something that has to do with income, even passive income. You may find that that is coming to a culmination, or that's coming to fruition. Maybe you planted those seeds at the Aquarius new moon, or maybe even before that. So those are going to come to fruition at the full moon. This may also highlight your money and assets, and perhaps highlight the difference between your money and other people's money, right? Because the 2nd house covers our own personal assets, while our 8th house covers shared assets. Okay. And so the dichotomy between what's yours and what's everyone else's may definitely be highlighted at the full moon in Aquarius. All right. Then with Virgo season, we have a highlight of your 9th house of long distance travel and higher education, because we have the Sun, Mercury, and the new moon there. So Virgo season is going to be about expanding your mind and going on an adventure, right? Whether you're experiencing different cultures, different religions, whether you're learning things that sort of broaden your horizons, I think like Virgo season is really going to highlight those things for you. And with the new moon in Virgo, you're going to want to plant seeds related to, you may want to plan a trip at that time, you know, an exotic trip, right? Someplace you've never been, or at least someplace that's far. You may want to start a legal proceeding at that time. You may want to start an upper level course, start grad school, law school, medical school, any of those things. Those are all great things to start at the new moon, and the astrology will support it. All right. And then finally, we have Uranus going retrograde on the 24th, and this is going to be in your 5th house of creativity, romance, and children. So regarding all of those things, you may have been experiencing a lot of volatility, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of surprises, a lot of things that have made you feel like you were not in control. Thankfully, with Uranus retrograde, that energy is going to subside. So things won't be as volatile in that area of your life, especially if you were someone who was dating a lot and you just had a whole bunch of craziness going on. I feel like Uranus retrograde is going to calm that down a little bit, and also get you to reflect on your romantic life, get you to reflect on standing apart from the crowd, being a leader, being creative, and sort of examining your inner child and the needs of your inner child. Like Uranus retrograde is going to be excellent for that. All right. All right. So that was Capricorn. Next up, we've got Aquarius. All right, Aquarius. So for you, August is about you. your home and family, your relationships, and intimacy. All right. So first up, Leo season is going to highlight your 7th house of relationships, all right? Because we've got the sun, Mercury, and Venus in that house. So during Leo season, those are the things you're going to be focused on. These could be your partnerships, your committed relationships, your contractual agreements, your business partnerships and associations. All of those are going to come into focus during Leo season, okay? And one of the things that you're going to want to keep in mind during Leo season is that when it comes to your relationships, it's really important for you to follow your heart. That is what Leo is going to ask of you. And if anything is not in alignment with your heart, it's not in alignment with how you feel, I think that it's worth re-examining. And I think that's going to be the essence of Leo season for you. All right. The full moon in Aquarius is going down in your sign. So it's going to be in your 1st house. So I feel like the full moon is going to illuminate things about you that you've either ignored, forgotten, haven't paid attention to, things having to do with perhaps your appearance, your body, or even your attitude or outlook on life. A personal goal or project, perhaps that you started at the new moon in Aquarius or even before that, may finally be coming to fruition at the full moon in Aquarius. But I really think the full moon is just going to illuminate a lot about you and what you can do or how you can be moving forward. Then Virgo season is going to highlight your 8th house of intimacy and shared resources. So those are going to be the things that are going to be the focus and that are going to be on your mind during Virgo season. So this could be handling insurance claims, handling a tax issue, an inheritance may come through for you. Anything having to do with other people's money may come into focus during Virgo season. Virgo season may also be a time of intimacy for you, or wanting more intimacy, or working on intimacy with partners. With the new moon in Virgo, this definitely sets the stage for increased intimacy in relationships, but it also plants fertile soil for you to plant money seeds, particularly other people's money seeds. So if you're looking for funding for a business, if you're looking for money, if you're looking for other people's money, you're going to want to plant those seeds at the new moon in Virgo, okay? And then finally, Uranus retrograde on the 24th is going down in your 4th house of home and domestic affairs. So things at home, things having to do with property, things having to do with family members may have been volatile while Uranus was direct. And I feel like now that Uranus is going retrograde, things aren't going to be so crazy at home, at least for the rest of the year. Things are going to settle down a little bit and allow you to reflect on your relationship with family, allow you to reflect on your home, what it means to be at home, who feels like home. All of those things are going to come into sharper focus with Uranus retrograde. All right. And last but certainly not least, we have Pisces rising. All right, Pisces. So for you, the areas of focus in August are ideas and conversations, work and health, relationships, and the unknown. All right, so let's get into it. First up, during Leo season, you have an emphasis on your 6th house of work and health because we have the sun, Mercury, and Venus in those signs. All right, in that house, I should say. So Leo season is going to be about working, getting efficient, the service that you provide to others. With Venus in your 6th house, this could be your relationship to coworkers and to clients, anyone to whom you provide services to on a daily basis. Those relationships are going to come into focus, and perhaps the equality having to do with those relationships. Because remember, Venus is all about equality. So maybe you're giving too much. Maybe you're not giving enough. I feel like Leo season is going to highlight that, regardless of which way it goes. Then at the full moon in Aquarius on the 11th, it's going to highlight your 12th house of the unknown. So the full moon in your 12th house is really illuminating things that you're not going to be able to see. It's sort of illuminating what's going on in the background. I feel like the full moon in Aquarius is going to be a very spiritual time for you. It's going to be a time for rest. It's going to be a time where you perhaps have a very active dream state. It's also going to be a time where things are happening again behind the scenes that you're just not privy to. Okay. Then with Virgo season, we have an emphasis on your 7th house of relationships. So Virgo season may have you sort of nitpicking and taking stock and perfecting the relationships in your life. Okay. This may also be a time where you're reviewing contracts and sort of going through them with a fine-tooth comb and really parsing out all of the details of contracts. So Virgo season may find you doing a lot of paperwork, or at least a lot of analyzing. Even if it's not on a business tip, it may definitely be in your relationship. So really analyze them, nitpicking, getting to the granular details of your relationships. All right. And so with the new moon going down in your 7th house of relationships, this is going to be the time to plant seeds for new relationships, seeds that you want to see grow. All right. And then finally, with Uranus retrograde on the 24th, it's going down in your 3rd house of communication and ideas. 3rd house also covers your neighborhood. So you may have found that while Uranus was direct, things in your neighborhood were either in flux, crazy things were going on, a lot of like anxious energy, a lot of anxiety, a lot of nervous energy. With Uranus retrograde, that's actually going to subside and things are going to be a little less crazy. Okay. Things may not be all over the place in terms of communication. You may find that your nervous system sort of stabilizes with Uranus retrograde also. So that may be something to look forward to. But again, Uranus retrograde is going to have things in your immediate vicinity calm down a bit. And it's actually going to allow you the mental capacity to think about things a little better, a little clearer, and have breakthroughs when it comes to how you think about things, how you see things, how you talk to people in your immediate vicinity. All of that is up for grabs with Uranus retrograde. All right, my loves, we have made it to the end of this astro forecast. Like I said in the beginning, August is really not that bad. There isn't much going on that's out of the ordinary. There isn't really anything out of the ordinary that's going on. Again, it's a regular sort of month. Enjoy it because, like I said, in the fall, things are going to look a lot different. All right. As always, I thank you so much for joining me, for rocking with me. You could have been doing anything tonight, but the fact that you tuned in to watch this live means the most to me. All right. So thank you for tuning in. I wish you the best for August. If you want more astrology, tune into my live weekly astrology forecast every Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on YouTube. On Instagram, I do live tarot readings every Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So head over to Instagram, hit that follow button so you don't miss any of that great stuff. If you're interested in any of my products or services, the links are in the description box below. Again, thank you so much for joining me. Happy August, and I will see you guys in my next video. Take care.